Hi, Mikhail. Welcome to another edition of our video podcast. And it's really wonderful to be with you again. It's always a pleasure. And I'm Shabnam Daskar. I am the co-founder of MDS program, and Mikhail is the other co-founder of our program. Both of us love, to talk about food as medicine. And just before we started recording this, we were having this wonderful conversation about how people are surprised when they see the benefits of using food as medicine. Because one of the first things that happens is they end up needing less medicine. So that is sometimes a very unusual, experience for many physicians. I mean, I've got used to it now, being in functional medicine for a while. A lot of my colleagues are not used to that. Anyway, I am digressing. So, Mikhail, I'll ask you to, introduce yourself and what are we talking about today?
Well, hi everybody, and hi Dr. Carr. Always such a pleasure to be chatting. I am Dr. Carr's partner with the MDS program, a functional nutritionist, and yeah, we like to talk all things food and how to fuel the body. And I'm just going to add to what you said, because not so much that food necessarily is medicine, which it can be, but when we optimally fuel our bodies with the food, because food is our fuel, we don't get as sick, or we create more balance or more health. So it's a wonderful thing to see, and small changes can make huge differences. And today we're actually going to talk about a really interesting topic, which is nutrients in food, and can we get all our nutrients from food? And I know Dr. Carr has prepared a great PowerPoint, a great slideshow to get us going. And without further ado, because we've got a lot that we want to cover, I wanted to get started.
Thank you, Mikhail. So anyway, I can't take credit for the PowerPoint. That is Microsoft's. So basically, actually, in the interest of time, we won't be, getting to all of them. So just two nutrients are the ones we are going to focus on. The first is omega-3 fatty acids. And Mikhail and I have talked on several other videos and podcasts about some nutrients being essential nutrients, essential meaning our bodies don't have the ability to make them. Omega-3 fatty acids is one of them. So if our bodies cannot make them, we obviously have to get it from food or supplements. The second is there are some amino acids. Amino acids make protein, which are essential amino acids. But the most important thing is there are no essential carbohydrates. So anyway, we are not going into a carbohydrate discussion today. So omega-3 fatty acids. And so Mikhail, this is actually a chart from the Canadian Nutrient File. So the Canadian Nutrient File is a list of, I think, more than 150 different nutrients and what they contain. And I am sorry, the slide looks very busy. But, when you talk about omega-3s, Mikhail, what do you most often hear? People talking about omega-3s from fish, right? So you take a fish oil supplement, or you should be getting them from fish. So the question is now, Atlantic salmon, and again, this is farm salmon. I'm not sure why they would have farm salmon right on top. But anyway, this chart has farm salmon as the top of the list. And the other important thing to bear in mind is food guidelines, suggest that we should eat 150 grams of fish per week. This is not per day, it is per week. And we are supposed to get, enough omega-3s. So omega-3s in this chart are the EPA DHA. I'm ignoring all the other parts. So let us go to the EPA DHA. And this is in 75 grams of cooked fish. And I chose the salmon because that is the highest. The others are much lower. So in 150 grams of salmon a week, we get EPA of 1036 and DHA of 2186. This is per week. So I'm going to move on to the next slide because that looks less busy. So before we go ahead, Mikhail, would you say a little bit about the EPA DHA in fish versus, some other sources? I think we'll probably discuss the other sources later. Let us finish with the fish first.
Sure, but I do want to get to the EPA DHA, because EPA and DHA are the essential omega-3s that we need. And there is often, there's this misconception that you can get your omega-3 from plant sources like chia or flax. And chia or flax have an omega-3 fatty acid called ALA. And ALA can be converted into EPA and DHA. The body is able to do this, but the conversion rate is very, very inefficient. We're probably looking at between 11 and 17%. So that means for every 100 grams of ALA that you're eating, you're probably only getting between 11 and 17 grams of EPA and DHA combined. So you can see that eating an animal source like fish is much more efficient in getting the EPA and DHA that your body and your brain desperately need. So I did want to just say that first, and now you can get into that a little bit.
Thank you, Mikhail. So another thing I want to mention here is on this slide, as everyone you can see. So this is basically the EPA DHA information comes from the previous slide of that chart. And for omega-3s, actually there is, as far as I know, and Mikhail, please correct me if I'm wrong, there is no recommended dietary allowance, right?
No, there isn't. And this is because it depends on the type of diet that you eat. And RDAs are, and we've spoken about this before, this recommended dietary allowance is the minimum that you would need to prevent deficiency. Yeah. And we know that we don't need a lot, but it's very, very, very different. It's very individual and very different. We do know that with EPA and DHA, that a little bit more is definitely better.
Thank you. So I'm considering for our discussion today a 1000 milligram. Now, I just want to highlight something. Here, we are not talking about supplementation with omega-3s because that is from a therapeutic perspective. That means for treatment of conditions like high triglycerides, heart benefits, those things. Those are much higher. In fact, I'm not talking about those, one recent study came out about 4 grams of EPA for high triglycerides, the Reduce It study, but that is not what we're talking about today. So this is only food for someone who doesn't have any illnesses. Now, Mikhail, I don't know how many of them you meet. I don't, because obviously they're not going to look for our services if they are well, right? So this is absolutely bare minimum, 1000 milligram of EPA DHA combination. And again, some conditions need more of EPA, some need more of DHA. DHA is very important for brain function. So if we look at this bare minimum, we need at least 7000 milligram a week. And if we are going to eat only 150 grams of salmon a week, then we will end up getting about 3222. So it's less than half of what we should get. Now, Mikhail, what is the reason that, health recommendations are for only 2 servings of salmon a week, like 150 grams a week?
Well, those are new, and they have to do with the pollution in our oceans and the mercury that fish now are storing in their, and plastics as well, are storing in their fats. So the smaller the fish that we eat, the safer they are. The bigger the fish, the more predatory the fish. So if you think of a big fish like tuna, it's going to be less healthful and more of a mercury risk than a smaller fish like a salmon, which again is going to be less of a going to be a greater health risk than a smaller fish than a salmon like a herring. So just because the fish, if the fish store the mercury and they're getting mercury just from exposure, then the more fish you eat plus the exposure, the more mercury you're going to store. So it's got nothing to do with the good or the badness of fish itself. It just has to do with the pollution in our oceans, sadly.
That's kind of really sad, because otherwise fish is, and again, I'm a lover of fish, so I could be biased, but fish is like good protein, no carbohydrates, wonderful fat, so all the wonderful things. Now, quite often what we don't realize, and actually I didn't until Mikhail pointed this out to me, that other than fish, what are the other sources? Now, Mikhail mentioned the vegetarian sources, but even in the non-vegetarian sources, I'm sure, Mikhail, many people don't think of lamb and beef as sources of omega-3. So, Mikhail, will you explain this a little bit?
And they are incredibly, incredibly rich sources of omega-3, especially when they are well raised. So we're talking grass-fed, grass-finished.
Mm-hmm.
And people think, well, lamb, we need to be careful. Lamb from New Zealand and Australia tend to be finished on grass. Lamb from the US tends to be finished on grain. It fattens them up a little bit. But
Okay.
animals are ruminant animals. So that's animals that have a split hoof and chew the cud. They're animals that have 4 stomachs. They are miracles of nature. They can take a carbohydrate, that is the carbohydrate that is found in grass, and they convert that carbohydrate through this process of the rumen, the 4 stomachs, into protein, into amino acids, and into fatty acids. And when they are fed, and they do this with all carbohydrates, but when they are fed specifically their diet, which is grass, that's what they're meant to be eating, they produce a fatty acid profile that is particularly rich in omega-3. And we've never been taught this. And part of it, I think, is because for so many years we've heard this dogma that red meat is bad and unhealthy due to its saturated fat and cholesterol content. Listen to us talk about this on another podcast. So it's never been included in a healthful diet or in an option for a healthful diet. But red meat is one of the most healthful foods that you can eat, not just because it's a really rich source of protein and has all the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that you would ever need, but it is an unbelievably good source of omega-3s.
Thank you, Mikhail. And that picture of that steak, it's making me
No, it
hungry.
looks delicious. There's
I
a reason,
know.
there's a reason that we salivate when we see it. It's delicious.
And interestingly, I have discovered over the last maybe 2 years or so that I get much better sleep on days when I have a nice juicy steak, versus eating something else. Even fish, whereas fish is one of my favorites, but eating a nice steak gives me much better sleep. And we do know that there are studies supporting higher protein intake and better sleep. And Mikhail, one thing I know, I sort of assumed that people would know what omega-3s are good for. So I think we'll just make a short detour because in case someone's not familiar with that. So Mikhail, what are your favorite benefits of omega-3? Then I'll tell you about mine.
Well, every single cellular process in the body pretty much needs omega-3s. Omega-3s are important in the structure of your cells. Omega-3s are important for the functioning of your brain, for the functioning of your heart, for the functioning of your eyes, of your retina. So, but for the functioning of your immune system, omega-3s are incredibly important for your skin. If we don't have sufficient omega-3s in our diet, we get dry and flaky skin. So things that we don't think about needing fatty acids. Fatty acids give our structures flexibility and mobility, right? They make muscles able to expand and contract. They make your skin feel nice and good and soft. Again, they help your eyes and the brain. What are yours, Dr. Carr?
Oh, my favorite benefit is the brain benefits and mood. So the other interesting thing is, omega-3s in the brain, they take about 2 years for a complete turnover. And brain omega-3s, of course, the DHA has a higher benefit. And the other most interesting, truthfully, Mikhail, as you mentioned, there is no cell in the body, I think, which doesn't benefit from omega-3. The other big benefit is heart disease. And here we are not even talking about protection from, heart disease or dementia. We are just talking about the basic food part, because for both those benefits, you're going to need much higher dosage. And another important thing, because given the mental health challenges people are going through because of the pandemic and in general, for depression and anxiety and some of those conditions, omega-3 has actually shown benefits in studies. And one more thing I just wanted to mention is, you and I always talk about, why should you guess how much omega-3 you need when there is a test available? But anyway, that is a different topic altogether. So the next thing is, so meat, as you can see, look at the amount of omega-3s in lamb. And in grass-fed beef, this is like much more than what it would be in fish. And whenever we talk about omega-3s, people are talking about salmon and all these fish. So again, the choice is yours, whether you want to get it from only food. Now you've understood how difficult that is, or you want to get from a combination of good food and supplementation. So Mikhail, I got my omega-3 test done some time back, and I was at about 9, and I wanted to go up. So and that is my personal opinion. Yes, of course, I love to eat good food, but I'm not going to rely only on food to give me enough omega-3s. And that is my personal opinion. Everyone is, they are entitled to their own. So I do take more omega-3 as a supplement because I love my brain and I want to continue, having the ability to use it. So the decision is yours, what you would like to do. I'm telling the audience, whether you want to eat only, omega-3s from food, or you want to do both, that is yours. And how much and all that, that is for another conversation. So the next thing, before we move on to the next one, sorry, Mikhail, both cameras are switched off. I'll go back to sharing the screen. So next major nutrient, which I absolutely love, is magnesium. So, Mikhail, will you start off with a little bit about, can we get enough magnesium from food, only food, no supplement?
Well, that depends on our lifestyles. And if we were living thousands and thousands of years ago without all the pollutants, without all the social stress and the economic stress and the emotional stress that we have in this world, yeah, we might be able to. But nowadays, probably not.
Thank you.
And I want to just stress by saying, remembering that RDA, the daily requirement, is the minimum necessary for deficiency. It's not the optimal necessary for function.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out, Mikhail, because the daily requirement that I've written on top, 300 to 420, one problem with magnesium, and I have had so many patients telling me, doctor, my blood magnesium levels are normal. Now, if you check your blood levels of magnesium, you will not know what the tissue levels are. So a serum magnesium does not tell you about your blood magnesium requirement. The correct test would be an RBC magnesium, which is not available everywhere. And it's not in Canada, it's not available on healthcare. So that's a specialized test. So if you don't know how much magnesium you need, there are different ways of finding it out. Take a supplement and see whether you get diarrhea. But we are talking about food today. And why would magnesium be so important? Because it's involved in more than 300 different enzymatic reactions. And some of the most important ones are blood sugar control, mood issues, sleep, anxiety, and obviously if it is 300 to 400 different enzymatic reactions, there are so many of them. And again, magnesium is a supplement, not a herb. So supplement meaning something that we are supposed to get from our food or nutritional supplements. So going back to getting it from food, only food. So 1 cup of boiled spinach is like 157. 1 ounce of almonds is 80 milligrams. Now, why I've highlighted the 1 cup of black beans. So, Mikhail, we talk about eating a lower carbohydrate diet. So obviously beans would not come with just the magnesium. It would come with a huge amount of carbohydrates as well. So if I am eating low carbohydrate food, I will not be eating enough of black beans. So, okay, let us assume for this conversation that I am eating black beans because you've been told, beans are good for you, beans and legumes. Even then, it's like 415. So we're not quite reaching there. And here we are making a lot of assumptions, like, for instance, that every cup of boiled spinach would have the same amount, because how much nutrients are present in the food that you're eating depends on so many different factors. So, Mikhail, will you just mention a few of the factors which would decide how much magnesium would be there in the spinach, for example?
Well, first of all, let's start with the soil that it was grown in. Our soils are very depleted now. So, it depends on what pesticides we use. It depends what other plants were grown with it. It depends on how much sunlight it has, because plants make their food from the sun and chlorophyll. It will depend on when it was picked, how it was stored, how it was transported. Was it sprayed with pesticides? Right? All of these things impact the nutritional components of the food. Then it's, how did we prepare it? Did we wash it? Did we cook it? How long did we cook it for? How steamed was it? Right? So, all of these factors will impact, and some of them can have quite a large impact on, on the nutritional quality of the food. Did we boil it and throw out the water? Did we steam it? Did we boil it in a little bit of water or a lot of water? Did we boil it for 5 minutes or for 50 minutes? Right? These things can make a difference. Starting from how it was grown, to how it was transported, to how long it's been stored, because cold storage, which is how most of our produce is kept, we don't just get it picked straight out of the ground and on our plates. That depletes the nutrients of the food as well. And then how we prepare it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And nowadays it's like, if you don't have your own garden or something, you don't even know how far your food has actually traveled when you're buying it from the store. So
Right.
this is one. So next thing is, okay, Mikhail, so what I did is I just decided to Google for, what are the high sources of magnesium that people talk about? Because I am always a little, what shall I say? I don't want to say something really terrible. It's like skeptical about, when people say, oh, this is a superfood, you need to eat more of this and you will get all your, blah, blah, blah. What today we're talking about magnesium, if you just eat this. Now, in that, this is one of the lists that I got from, and if you just Google it, anyone, I'm requesting you to just Google, you'll find what are the high sources of magnesium. The other one is pumpkin seeds, 1 ounce every day. That is the other important thing to remember. Dark chocolate. Now, dark chocolate, remember that this has to be unsweetened, because sweetened dark chocolate would also add all the carbohydrates, and you don't want to add the sugar. So if someone decides, okay, I'm only going to eat dark chocolate for the magnesium, that's just 50 milligram in 1 ounce. And then they added sugar with that. And whole wheat bread, 2 slices. So Mikhail, here, okay, I'm going to get the magnesium from my bread. So that's 46 milligram of magnesium, not a lot. But the blood sugar goes up to 7 or 6.5, 6.8. So this is why I am always a little, hesitant to when people talk about, oh, this is like a good source of this. Yes, it could be a good, and this is not even a good source of one. But what about the other things it brings with it? So blood sugar would be way more important in your and my world than getting the 46 milligram of magnesium from 2 slices of whole wheat bread. Kidney beans, again, the same thing. So the ones that I've highlighted in different color are the ones which are higher in carbohydrate. So obviously, if I'm eating and recommending a low carbohydrate diet, those wouldn't be. Now, salmon, again, 3 ounces, about 26 milligram. But if we add up all these things, we're still not reaching there, right?
Right. Dr. Carr, I do need to add something, is often, especially when it comes to plants, they come on paper with a whole bunch of nutrients, but that doesn't also mean that that's the amount of nutrient that you're going to absorb. It doesn't work quite the same with animals, but it definitely does with plants, because they have what we call anti-nutrients as well, and the plant has other aspects to it that often prevent absorption. We also know that when it comes to carbohydrate, and the reason that carbohydrate is important is carbohydrate competes with almost every other nutrient on your cell, and carbohydrate wins every single time. Carbohydrate is the big bully in the room. So you could be eating all the magnesium perfectly, but if your diet is really high in carbohydrate, that magnesium is going down the toilet. You are not absorbing it, and your cells are not using it, because the carbohydrate is fighting with the magnesium to get into the cell, and the carbohydrate will win every single time. So it's important to understand that, again, what you see on paper isn't always what you get.
That's very interesting. Yeah. And then there are so many other factors as well, in addition to carbohydrate intake. A,
Hmm.
your gut health. And it's like it just goes on
Everything.
and on, everything.
Everything. Yeah. So what you see on paper is not always going to be what you're getting. So you might say, well, I'm taking all of these supplements and I get my magnesium tested and my magnesium is low and I don't understand why.
Mhm.
And sometimes we just throw a supplement onto something when something is low without dealing with all of the ways and the reasons that the body might not be breaking down or absorbing things in general, let alone this one specific nutrient. So it's not just it's not just the straight line from A to B. You know, Dr. Carr has her constellation, which we've discussed many times, and it's everything. Everything affects everything all the time. It's constantly going round and round.
Yeah, and in terms of magnesium, in conversation with magnesium, one of the major ones I suddenly remembered is some of the prescription medications can reduce nutrients in your body. So drug-induced nutrient depletion, DIND, is one of the things that we look at. And one of the major culprits is the proton pump inhibitors, like the PPIs, medicines like omeprazole, lansoprazole, pantoprazole, which some people are actually dependent on them. And I've come across people who are taking them without having any symptoms. Like they don't have any reason to take them. Their doctor had put them on these PPIs, and they've been taking them for years, and the doctor forgot to take them off of that. And again, so magnesium depletion is one of the big ones. And magnesium, most of it is in the bones. So if you're very concerned about your bone health, that is very important. So Mikhalvi, I just had slides on omega-3 and magnesium, but obviously there are a whole lot others. What others come to your mind first of, just
B, B12 is a big one for me, especially because we're being so driven to eat less animal product.
Mhm.
And B12 is only available in animal product. And again, really important for your brain, especially for children, more
Mhm.
than anything else for children. And nothing saddens me more than seeing children not eating animal product because it's problematic. Vitamin D is another one. It's not a food that we necessarily get our vitamin D from. It's the sun, and it's the sun not slathered in sunscreen. It's the sun on your skin. So, and they've done studies and shown that although supplements work, they're never as good as the sun.
Yes,
So
Mikhail, vitamin D is going to be a long
it's
discussion.
a big
There are
difference.
so many factors.
Yeah,
But
but those, just as you say it, those to me are really big ones in my world right now.
Mhm.
And it always changes. I know you have a long list of ones that you like. So let's hear a few more of
No, these are the major ones. Vitamin B12 is a big one because you and I both know we have a lot of patients from India who are vegetarian. And truthfully, unless people who are vegetarian supplement with a B, and it's not just B12, it's the other B vitamins as well, but B12 is the major one and it can be easily tested in any lab.
them.
Uh, I don't, Mikhal, is it possible for someone who is vegetarian or vegan to get B12 particularly if they are not supplementing?
So this is such a big topic of contention because you'll hear vegan and vegetarian, um, experts say that you cannot. And there is a one type of algae
Mhm.
that you can consume, but you have to find it. And basically, the only way to find it is in supplement form,
Mhm.
that has B12 in it. That is a plant that contains B12. But other than that, B12 is an animal, it is found in animal products, as is the essential, well, they're not essential that we have to eat them, but with the really important nutrients of cholesterol, I hate to say, and some amino acids as well. Iron is another big
Oh,
one.
it's going to come to that.
And iron in spinach is not the same as iron in meat. And again, as with omega-3s, the body can convert the iron from spinach to the iron that your body needs, but that's even less efficient then that omega-3 conversion, it's probably it's less than 5%.
Mhm.
So I always make a joke and I say Popeye lied to you, because he did not get all his iron from spinach. It is not, you would need to eat ridiculous amounts. And then there's other problems with eating that amount of spinach. You do not want to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, in my world, no, you have to supplement with a B12.
Mm-hmm. And B12 is like, so when I look at nutrient depletions, as I'm sure you do, for me, these are like sort of like low-hanging fruit, so to say, because there are way more complex problems which cannot be dealt with so easily. But iron deficiency is another one that I wanted to bring up. So iron deficiency, B12 deficiency, these are ones that make for a very poor quality of life. And that is the whole sad thing. I get so many people with iron deficiency, and even actually a lot of men have iron deficiency, because somehow people think that iron deficiency is only a women's problem. It is not. A lot of men have iron deficiency as well. And very often they are not accurately diagnosed, because people are only doing a CBC. So checking a hemoglobin will not tell you whether you have iron deficiency. So iron deficiency, B12 deficiency, vitamin D deficiencies, these are sort of, in my world, the kind of low-hanging fruit. You can correct them and get better much faster.
Yeah.
The decision is yours. Obviously, if you're very low in iron, you are not going to get enough only from food. You will have to supplement, but the decision is entirely yours. So iron was another big one. We talked about omega-3s, we talked about magnesium, we talked about B12, we talked about a little bit about iron. And so vitamin D, I just wanted to mention something, because someone asked me on WhatsApp. We have these conversations sometimes in groups. Sometimes, is it milk which is fortified with vitamin D here in North America? I forget.
Milk is, often cereal grains are as well.
Mm-hmm. But unless these are enriched with vitamin D, they don't naturally, of course, I mean, cereals are not natural food. So
right.
Milk does not contain any vitamin D otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So if someone says, I'm not going to go out in the sun, and again, sun exposure is a different story. My skin color versus Mikhal's skin color and how much I expose, a lot of different things. But even with fortified milk, they will never get enough vitamin D, right?
No, it's very difficult. And again, taking in the right amount, so even if you were taking a supplement and absorbing the right amounts, are different. So, if it's always best for people to start with some tests, because then we know. And we live in such a world where we think if a little bit is good, more is better, and that's not always the case. So you need to, there's this Goldilocks zone, right? This just right zone, this balance. And it's important to know where you're at. And also, if you're depleted, the dose that will replete you and the dose that will maintain you will be different. So, more isn't better. So it's important, I think, to get some good testing done. Magnesium is an easy one. Magnesium is really difficult to take too much of, because magnesium stimulates the bowel contraction.
Yeah.
So too much magnesium, especially in certain forms, you'll know your body wants to get rid of it really, really fast. So, but not all, a lot of other supplements get stored, especially some of the fat soluble ones, they'll get stored in your fat. So it's important to get tested.
Oh, absolutely. And maybe we should have a video or podcast on vitamin D some other day, because it's a huge topic.
Yes, and sunshine.
Stored in fat, that is very important, because vitamin D has so many benefits, but it's so easy to overdo it. And because of the ongoing pandemic, I know many people are thinking, like you said, if a little bit is good, a whole lot is better.
Not always.
Not at all. So thank you very much, Michal. It was wonderful talking to you, and I'm sure this video will help a lot of a lot of the audience in knowing what is right. See, I'm not saying go do this and not that or anything like that. Michal and I don't have such opinions ever. But my point is, we like to share our knowledge so that you know what you're deciding, based on what.
Yeah, right. Informed decisions.
Informed decision. Okay. Thank you very much.